Move into our second reading, September 22nd, 2015. Commissioners, you guys need a second to get your stuff together?
Dan, I'm going to move tourism up.
Do what?
Tourism finance.
Yeah, I know. Commissioners. Before we get started, a couple things. One is the seated plans are on for tonight. I don't want to hear the seated plans till the end. I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I'd like to address the seated plans at the end of our budget sessions, which is going to be for the end of October. We can discuss at that point if we want to have a meeting particular to seated plans, or if we just want to address them at maybe our 26th meeting or something like that. But I don't want to hear those tonight. Also, Memorial Opera House is on for tonight, but I don't want to hear that tonight either. I've talked with commissioners and asked if we could put that over. They have a new director. I'd like to have an opportunity to meet with her, and maybe you guys would as well, if you haven't already. I have not, to kind of go through the budget with the new director before we sort of pull her in. So if we can move that back, I would greatly appreciate that as well.
Do you have a date for that?
Well, yeah, we'll let her know. But most likely, we'll put her on the 26th as well. We have animal shelter that night, too. That ought to be a fun one. So if we could just kind of make some adjustments. If you guys have some proclivity to wanting to hear these on a different date other than the 26th, by all means, let me know, and we can accommodate. But it just seems most reasonable to me to have seated at the very end after we've gone through our budgets. We see what we're looking at. We can address these plans one at a time. Look at some of the priorities in the plans and kind of move through that.
The seated will be that night too?
Yeah, tentatively, if something changes here, if there's an issue, we'll figure that out. Okay, so with that having been said, let's go. So you have in front of you, I hope, the Commissioner's 1030 General Fund budget. And what sort of things are we changing? Anything? Yeah, a little bit. Now this one has the, well.
This does have the telephone, which was the omission from last year.
Right.
So that's been added. That's the 175 for
Yep.
the overall increase.
Okay.
Okay. So everything else is the same?
Well, there's some adjustments, but the bottom line is the same.
What are the adjustments? Let's look at it. So the salaries went down a little bit. Why is that?
Well, we're paying half of Julian's salary, and that's not in this at this point.
Okay.
And then we had some people that we just shifted around a little bit to better reflect what their responsibilities are in maintenance.
And you've upped the hourly a little bit, it looks like? Okay.
I'd like to ask about the office supplies. What's the amount that's in there now?
Do you mean like for this year's budget, Sylvia? What's left?
Pull
that budget up,
wanting to
Vicki.
get a reflection of.
Let's see what's up
It
to.
was originally budgeted at 150, but there were some transfers earlier this year, bringing it down to about 134.
And while we're talking about this, we wanted to ask you to transfer $1,000 of that to uniforms and clothing. It's our maintenance people with uniforms. For replacement, or if we have anybody new.
You want us to do that?
For the budget for next year.
Oh, for next year. Out of that account.
Yes, we did.
So it looks like you've expended about 70,000. Put that back up, Vicki, please. You've expended about 70,000. What are you thinking you're going to expend for the year? I mean, it's been a little up and down, and I suppose that it's fluid, but do you think you're going to be well under the 134, 213, or do you think you're going to be right on? So in this is the 2014 budget. So in 2014, you spent about 100, 101. So it looks like you're pretty much still on target for that. Is that correct? So can you tell me why you're asking for 150?
We should,
Is there something changing or something you expect? You're just aiming a little bit high, just to give your what, Michelle?
Yeah, so that office supplies, as I'm sure you're all aware, that's for all the offices.
Right,
It's all
right.
under the office, so,
I
well,
understand.
we've already, what my point is that there's already been transfers out of this account for other things, and I'm just wondering if they really need that much for office supplies when it's being utilized for other things. Every department gave up their office supply.
Well, what do you mean?
We're saving money by doing it this way. That's tremendous. That's great. But I feel like it's turning into maybe a little bit of a, if we're short on money, let's take it out of there.
Well, is that what's happening?
Well,
We've only made one or
two.
Well, hold on a minute, Sally. I want to.
$17.50.
It's nice to be able to make the transfer.
So if we brought it down to, if we brought this, it looks like the adjusted budget was 134. You're asking for 150. If you don't have any, and I don't want to nickel dime this, but would 120 make it palatable? I mean, you're shooting well under that now.
fine with me.
If we need an additional, we'll be.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
something
that's
happens,
right.
yeah. If something happens,
There you go.
Also,
That's all we can do.
well,
would you take that number down to 120, please, Vicki? Yes, Sylvia.
It went to workman's comp,
Lock on that door.
office supplies, auto truck and equipment.
You already have a lock on the door.
And it went to
That's right.
I'll ask. Hey,
Sylvia, did you have another question?
I was just wondering about the gas, fuel, and lube. How much?
Well, hold on. Before we go to that, I'm sorry. I thought you were still on. You were getting ready to say something, Commissioner Blaney?
It went to workman's comp, it went to telephone, I mean, it didn't go,
No, I
Didn't go in
understand
your
that.
Didn't go in our pocket?
no.
I understand that completely. We're at budgets and we're just, you know.
All right, back.
You know where it went, that's
All right, and back to your question, Sylvia. What were you saying?
I was kind of liking to know how much has been spent on gas,
Pull
fuel.
up the gas, fuel, and lube budget, please, Vicki.
So they have a balance of 298.65 in their appropriation.
I was wondering if we could trim that a little bit, just to give us more breathing space. Trim it 100 grand and all my crystal ball is saying it's not.
What happened in 14 on this budget?
Right here.
What was the carryover this year?
So in 14 we budgeted 480, they spent 441.
Right.
I mean, just the price is falling, so that.
Do you know what? Yeah, is it just that?
Well, yeah, the prices.
If all those fuel transporters wouldn't gouge us.
like it's gonna do,
Huh?
is it gonna go up or down?
Crystal ball.
I mean, when somebody nukes somebody, there's nothing,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah, that's fine. So your suggestion is just trim it?
cut it to 400 for next year. They're gonna have money left over this year.
Cut it to 400, Vicki, and see how we look.
And your pleasure with uniforms and clothing?
That's fine.
1,000, or was it 1,000?
1,000.
All right.
Two comments, remember, we are moving the recorder, perf and FICA, and E911 perf and FICA to this budget. That's why you're going to see the difference in perf and FICA.
So is that already reflected in here?
Yes.
Okay.
See those notes to the side? And you want to keep all other line items as is?
Yeah, and what would be the bottom line on that?
Okay, let's move that over.
Just one more question.
Yes. Yes.
We just had to add to building liability. Is this going to be sufficient to take us through next year?
Good question.
What was that?
You said you just had to come in and ask for a
You just
bump
gave
on
it-
the
yeah.
premises liability or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
the
and
building liability, and you're going with last year's number. Is this sufficient to get you through next year?
assuming we don't.
Is this claims driven? Yes.
3420.
So right now, you're at 962, and you're staying at the same number. Will that be sufficient?
Hopefully.
I haven't seen insurance premiums gone down too much.
Can you pull that budget up for 2014 and then 2015? Let's see how we've been doing. I mean, it's a good, so that's 15, so we're almost right on. And 14, you expended 951. I mean, so this isn't I mean, we're not self-insured here, obviously, so it's not claims-driven, but it's claims-driven in the sense that it affects our premiums.
Yeah.
What's in front of us here?
This is 13,
This is 13.
881, 14, 951, and 15.
Mom was right. I should have been a doctor or an insurance man.
Good estimate.
Plus the 30,000.
All right. So it may be that our 962, 620 isn't going to cut it. But I don't know.
Remove some of the gas money there.
We pulled the gas down 100,000. Let's throw 50,000 of that back over to liability.
Okay.
I'm assuming that they're good, that there is a certain level of self-insurance in the county. We're self-insured to X, or should we be self-insured to 10,000, 20,000, whatever?
I don't know what our deductible is.
That's a good word. I use the word.
Who handles our insurance for this?
Self-insured retention is the correct word we're looking for.
What did you?
Self-insured retention. Do we have, what is that level? And should that be raised?
Well, that's probably an insurance question. But
Right.
Who is the insurance?
Who's our carrier for this?
I believe it says on here Anton.
Okay.
Anton.
So we can ask them.
I mean, to the point of self-insurance, that's all I'm saying. We're self-insured on the healthcare.
Well, I guess before we go down that path too far, let's maybe we'll reach out to Anton. We'll get a little more clarification, and when we come back for third reading, let's address that. If you put that down, Vicki, as a third reading question. Because I have a couple questions about the premium, if we've had any extraordinary claims or something that may have driven our premium. It's just the market.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes, you can, Bob.
We still budgeting $82,000 for unemployment. I know that we had to pay some unemployment before. Does that number just stay there, or because we're not?
Would you pull the unemployment up again?
Yeah.
Or pull the unemployment up? Okay. Is this 15?
Yes, it is.
So we budgeted 82,000. No, how come the adjusted budget's 50?
There must have been a transfer. Yeah.
Balance still 32,000.
Yes.
That's not too shabby. So if we took unemployment down to 60,000, that would still be consistent with our adjusted budget from last year.
Right.
Do that, please. Unless someone has a problem with that.
That's on the unemployment.
Yeah.
The work comp, is that not going down at all with the safety program that they instituted? I'm just asking a question.
Well, the work comp budget, please.
Oh.
Well, that's not good news.
No.
We've done some additional into this already, I assume.
There may have been an encumbrance from, there was,
How much of an additional did we? So we started at 450. So obviously we had to bump about 10,000 in. Is that going to get you to the end of the year? Or are you going to be back for another additional?
No, they've probably been audited and it's over. They came back and hit us after the audit.
So 460, 337, 76 is it.
We should be done.
Okay.
We're gonna.
We just approved that increase recently.
So do we expect $450,300 to be sufficient for 2016? Not currently. So
I mean, I would hope so. We didn't have a very good year this year.
Okay, all right. Okay, go back, Vicki. Any other questions on this budget that jump out at you?
My only question is the hourly rate. You know, we had this discussion, I guess this is a general question, that either increasing your hourly rate to $16, and we've seen over the last couple days, budget says it's anywhere from $9 to now $16. I mean, and maybe this is a question for our human resource person as we move forward in the next year or so. I mean, that's just a huge discrepancy.
What's your part-time rate now?
It depends on the job.
What's the max right now?
16.
Well,
15.50.
so everyone's answered, and everyone's, so if we can just get the person I asked to answer. It's how much?
Our highest paid part-time person is 15.50.
Okay.
I don't recall who we were talking to. I mean, the other day they were paying somebody, I don't know, was it $8, $9? I mean, there's some pretty low. I don't know. I guess I would like to see. It's a general question. We see different budgets and people are paying anywhere hourly from $8, $9 to $16 an hour.
I mean, we can philosophically have some general idea of what we want our minimum payment to be to hourly, but to blanket say that all hourly make this much would be probably foolhardy, since they're all very different jobs.
Right.
Yeah, but I agree with the minimum that you're talking about. I
Yeah.
mean,
You know, our hourly on our part-time is lowest is $11, which is the bulk of our part-time employees because they're custodian.
Okay.
And then we have a person that bumps the high end is security.
Oh.
So we're dealing with custodians, switchboard, mail clerks, and building security.
and we talked about, like in the veterans office, for people making $9 an hour. I mean, dealing with our veterans. So I mean, I don't even want to start comparing that, but it's.
Yeah, we've got. I mean, there certainly is a wide, varying hourly rate that department heads have come and asked for, and often will up the maximum hourly rate, and it doesn't affect their hourly budget. Because they have so much appropriated and they have carryover, and they just want to get up, to stay with inflation. Getting hourly folks part-time sometimes is difficult, particularly if you're not paying a competitive wage.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
also, one of the accommodations for the increase on the part-time hours, we're also trying to figure in some more security here at the building, because I know that was a call-out from this board.
Right.
And so we're trying to fit that into this hourly schedule too, so we're trying to accommodate that as well in this budget.
Okay. And that might be something we double back around and deal with. When we talk about our wages at the end, we might want to have a discussion about what our hourly, our projected hourly range could be. Okay, any other questions on this particular budget? What's the bottom line then, Vicki?
$11,684,183.
And that's with the carryover from the other
Yes,
budget.
yes.
So how much of a hit does that do?
You mean in terms of how much has been cut? sir?
How much have we increased the general fund budget?
18,714.
Wait a minute, that's
Something's
that's
not
wrong.
right with that.
That's not right. Try that again. How much have we increased from this budget,
Yeah.
from 15 to, that's not,
Yeah.
it's more like a couple 100,000. Wish it were 18.
It's an increase of 259,266, but keep in mind, we did shift those costs.
Yes.
for FICA.
Yes, we did. Okay. You've got the big number in front of you of $11,684,183. Any other questions about this budget this time? What's your pleasure with this budget?
Move.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussions or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Wonderful. Human Resources. am I not seeing that? Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, I got you. Is this it here? So, how are you?
Well, I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing just swimmingly. Thank you for asking. So it looks like your budget is fairly close, a little bit less. 117.5. Is that right? Let me jump.
It's the same as what it was.
Well, it's a little bit less because of your salary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely no reflection on you. Just the way the numbers fell. So the number's 117.5.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion or questions on this budget?
What have you been doing? I mean, how have you been acclimating yourself to all
Well, I've
this?
met with a lot of department heads, and I've started working on the policy manual. I've had ethics training.
You did have the ethics training? Did do that. I hear it went great.
Just dealing with issues one day at a time.
I understand.
What programs do you have in the hopper that you'd like to see over the next year come to fruition?
What programs? Well, I think we need to get a good hiring process and orientation in place, a termination in place for when somebody exits. It's not clear sometimes what things should be done.
Something more uniform than what we're doing now?
Yeah, just more uniform. There's a lot of policies but no procedures, and the policies need updated as well, so.
Okay. Good.
I had the opportunity to spend some time with Pam and talking about the budget, and I know one of the
Was she
things.
giving you your exit interview?
Fortunately not. One of the things that she has on her radar, which I think is extremely important, is training for department heads and the people that are reporting, that have people reporting to them, to make sure that they understand how many of these policies that are in place or the procedures that we're going to have in place all need to be followed on a consistent basis. And I think that's a heck of a good start in terms of trying to bring under wraps some of the things that go on out in county government. So I think that's an excellent initiative that she has on the radar.
Yeah, another thing too, if I might chime in, is we had the exodus of our buildings superintendent here, and so together Pam and I dusted off that job description, and we actually wrote a new one, and we're going to be out bidding for that position here. That's why we've left it in our budget.
Good.
But we're trying to change the skill set level and what we're going after for that type of person that can maybe help us down the road, try to sort of cut some of these consultant costs and some other things that we can do internally. So there's a lot of job descriptions that need to be dusted off and rewritten. And it's very timely, and it has to be done right. We're also talking about how we're going to market for these people. Right now, we're just going out on our website. I think we need to do a little bit deeper dive, a better search on that. So we're talking about a lot of things that are probably boring to most people, but
Oh, no, I find it very interesting.
HR state yourself.
So we're taking them as they come right now, but
That exit interview.
we're working through it.
Okay, all right.
I got a question. You got
Sure, Bob.
you got 10,000 for legal. Do you not use Betty, or do you use outside?
Well, when the budget was put together, I wasn't here, of course, so I'm not sure what the legal is exactly for. So I did move some money out of it and just move some money around, but I just left it there just in case I needed it for something, because I haven't been here through a whole budget cycle. So
you thought you might need to sue us if we didn't go? I'm going to hang on to my lawyer until we get going.
I guess
I'm not sure
in your everyday operations, do you use Betty? Is that your
Yes.
go-to? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it your suggestion to?
Well, I'd cut it in half. If Betty can't get us out of the mess we're in, then we got a bigger mess.
I would ask, but obviously that's your call, to keep it in there, because there is some projects next year that we're looking at that has to do with wage classification surveys, and sometimes you have to get into legal situations on that too. I don't know if that's something that Betty can handle.
Well, and also there
We
might be,
have to vote on HR.
listen, and there might, what I was thinking was there might be a situation where we have to bring in conflict counsel because there might be a conflict with Betty. 8,000, lawyers are going to say good morning for 8,000. That's right. So we might want to leave that in there just in case. I mean, that happens. If we've got a situation where somebody has used Betty in the past or meets with her about some sort of conflict and it doesn't get resolved and they bring some sort of action and Betty becomes their witness, guess what? She can't represent. We need an independent conflict counsel. Not a bad idea to keep that in it.
But that's to the pleasure of the council, so I'm just
But, okay. You've heard Bob's request of cutting it in half. Is there any thoughts on that? Take her down to 4,000. If we need to, if something comes up, we'll
Yeah, they can come back.
At least we left something in there.
I just get concerned about HIPAA and other.
Right. No, it's good, and you might very well need that, and it's good to have that in there as a cushion so that I don't disregard it. Yeah, we'll take her down to 4.
A few more days, we're gonna be scraping nickels off the floor.
Do what?
In a few more days, we're gonna be scraping nickels off the floor.
Understood. So your big number is 113.5. What's your pleasure with that?
Make the motion.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
1233, general fund. You're still here. Sorry, Commissioner Good. You ain't done.
Where's that at?
Is it CCD? 138.
Thanks.
No. Federal DOC prisoners, 1233.
Okay. Where's that?
I don't know.
Do I have an old agenda? I mean, we got to address 1233. All right.
It was right after the 10:30 Commissioners General Fund budget.
All right, so we've got,
I don't have it in my book.
What is it?
we want to look at 1233, guys.
I can't find it.
Went up for
Looking.
I believe that's the other half of 1217, is that right? The same? So, as you know, these prisoner fees come in, they go to some into 1217, some into 1233. We're addressing 1233, which is the commissioner's half of the game.
I'll make the motion to 328,500 is submitted.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we're going to wait on seated, CCD 1138. My book's a little out of order, so bear with me. And I have old and new, and I'm not 100% sure. Okay, here we go. So it looks like it's down a shade. This is not general fund.
I thought this was going up.
I thought, yeah.
I thought
I thought you guys raised it.
rate, yeah. Didn't you guys raise the rate on this? No?
Yeah, they took it out of our general fund.
So why is it down? That's a good
Raised for
question.
this year.
Are we missing it a little
You
bit?
raised the rate.
Start 2000, let me see how we started 2015. Start with the,
What was approved last year, the site cut into?
all right, so let's pull it up and see. Yeah, let's
So this is still accurate with the
let's
rate
have a look,
increase?
see at the budget.
Yeah, but it's tough to get guidance.
Any chance we get that budget up?
Yeah, but that rate's so much 100. You raised the rate, it generates tax.
But we approved, I mean, you guys approved,
Hold on a second, let's look at the budget. Let's look at the budget. All right, now, what was originally, what ended up being budgeted for 15, an adjusted budget looks like of $3,725,186.65, of which you've expended $2,254,357. Commissioner Blaney.
Well, it got adjusted because of the AV.
So it looks like you're keeping the same adjusted or Yeah, the same adjusted budget. Was it that the state cut it? Was there something,
It's the same original budget.
well, the original budget was,
Went from the 976 to the 579 was because the state cut it.
that doesn't,
The 976.
yeah, on the buildings, capital outlays. But, so why do you have 3.8 million for your 2015 budget? Where did that number come from?
That was the original budget.
That was what was approved, but then the state.
State cut it. So, and the state cut it down to 3.4 million, correct? And change.
Yes.
All right. So what we're looking at for proposed 2016 budget is what the state, the number that the state basically cut 15 down to. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, but they increased the rate. So what does that do?
This is a rate-driven fund. So whatever the rate is, whatever the state determines what levy can be supported. And so if they spent more, if they spent less, all those factors come into play. So yes, you would approve a higher budget because the rate was going up, but this is a rate-driven fund and it's tied to the assessed value.
Right, but they
And you really-
increased their rate,
Yes.
which is gonna increase the revenue. Do we have that number? Well, I don't know what the AV did.
It increased the levy, but there were other
Right.
factors like cash balances
Right.
and projected other revenues
So
coming in.
where did it end up when all the dust settles? Are they gonna increase the available funds? No?
Based on the numbers that I'm working with right now, the state will likely say that the levy cannot support this budget.
So they raised the rate.
Wait, Bob, wait. I want to, she got my attention.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if we pass the 2000 proposed budget of 3.4 million and change, you're saying it's likely the state will not approve that.
Unless I revise some of the revenue figures.
What do you mean by revise? I mean,
This is part of
are they not
what
accurate?
we report to the state. It's based on our projected revenues coming in. Let's say excise goes up, we can adjust that upwards. We can adjust it downwards too. But this is a levy-driven, a rate-driven fund, so whatever the certified net AV is going to be, the state's going to give you the levy based on your new rate of
Right.
0.233.
Have they certified the AV?
I did, yes.
So right now we have 1.3 million of balance in the 2015, CCD fund. Are we expecting do you have anything down the river in the next 4 months that are going to tap into that heavy? Just my question is, how close to the mark are we, and if the state cuts it, so what? All right. So, all right, again, you've got 3.4 and change, which is pretty much what the state whacked 15 to. What is your pleasure with that number?
We open for discussion?
Well, let's get a motion.
Motion to approve it.
We have a motion, I'll second for discussion. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, I don't think the 3.4 is gonna be an accurate number with them raising the rate.
Yeah, but we don't know that. The rate might go up, but the net assessed value might go down. And then your rate is a higher rate on a lower number.
But you certified,
This rate is not going up. It went up for this year. The rate that's going up is for the cumulative bridge fund.
That's the bridge fund.
I understand, I thought you guys raised the CCD fund as well.
Yes.
They did
Right.
last year for this year.
Right.
But the state still cut the budget. The overall budget still went up. Remember the year before it was only 3 million.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other
I
questions?
got a headache.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? None? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Jail, rainy day.
Zero.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second to zero this out. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Cable television, 4906. Same.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? How's that, is that fun? How's that fund run? I'm just curious. I know it's not general fund, but I want to, just curious. Somebody asked me this question, and I didn't have the answer. So, it's running solid. Okay. We have a motion, a second on the floor at 1.1. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Emergency Medical Services, 1151. Stayed exactly the same.
Move.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Parking Garage Fund, 4017, stayed the same.
Move.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Again, non-general fund. Hearing no discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Zona Wildlife Donations, 4109, stayed the same. What's your pleasure? We have a motion on the floor and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Hospital trailing liability. How are we doing on the trail? I mean, are we tapping this fund? Do we have a lot of trailing liability that's hitting it, Scott? Or
2 more years.
is that sort of petering out, I would hope?
2 more years.
Pull that fund up. This isn't our general fund, but it might impact other things.
2 more years.
Balance of about 961, 563.
2 more years.
All right. Okay.
That'll be enough.
Okay, perfect. What's your motion on 350?
Move.
We have a motion. A second?
Yes.
And a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's pull up hospital interest 4902. So we've got OE back in here, we got Family Youth Services Bureau in here, we got Council on Aging in here. How much is in there right now? Should be the question on everybody's mind.
Almost 5.8 million.
Okay, and of that 5.8 million, how much more do we have to come out for the rest of this year? What things do we have budgeted against that?
I believe the only item left is the second half of the life insurance, or health
Longevity?
insurance.
Health insurance, okay.
Medical insurance.
Okay. So right now, the number is the same, 2.4 and change. What's your pleasure?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? There's a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. 4903.
Where do we go to now?
We're gonna move past. Yeah, it's the same at 1,045,000 contractual. That's ambulance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your pleasure with this one?
Move. Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion.
When is that contract up?
This was renewed.
Can we just renew it?
So I
A
thought,
couple of years.
No,
Well, I mean, it's been a
there's
couple.
another year left.
Yeah, but I thought.
Was it a 3-year renewal, or was it a 5-year?
It's a 5-year, and we're coming to the,
End of it?
in 2016.
See, I thought
Next year.
it got renewed a couple years
I
ago
did too.
by, and I think that,
I think it was extended.
oh, was it
There
extended?
was like 2 years left or something. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, you're right, you're right, they did extend it,
It
yes.
was an extension.
No, it wasn't.
No?
No,
Nope, what?
No, it was not extended.
It was a brand. It was up. It was brand.
It's
new?
up, like Commissioner Good said, in 16.
No. All right. It's up in a year.
correct.
What are? I think you guys remember the dialogue we had back and forth when it was up at that point in time. Are we going to try to seek some other options to look at?
Oh, you're right.
You know, is this something that
Go to Ricky Mo.
is on the radar at all? Or are we just going to?
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna, next year, when that time comes up, we're gonna,
Well, we want to make sure that, and we've had candid discussions, that when someone calls for an ambulance is necessary, we don't want an experience like you had on the expressway recently, where you're waiting for an ambulance for somebody who's burning alive, and the wrong ambulance service comes.
Well, they weren't burning.
Late.
It was tragic. To say the
So,
least.
so it's not just about the cost, it's about the quality too.
Absolutely. So it's just something that, you know, there's some different models out there. I believe Chesterton, Jim, Chesterton has a different where it's just something maybe we should definitely.
no, we're, actually, that's one of the contracts that I put up and pulled out on my desk, and I'm gonna start getting into it and start taking a look at it. There's gonna have to be an RFP process, obviously.
Right.
And, but it's gonna be an RFP process that has to be carefully written because of their care situation in there. And this is a situation where I know people like to look at cost, but there's also a care factor. So there's a lot of parts that go into this, so it's not a typical RFP. It's gonna have to be something that's done right.
Should I jump in here now, or you want to let it go?
Do what?
Should I jump in here now?
What do you want to do?
I mean, statutorily, it's not our duty. It's a township function.
Well, we're not really gonna get into that.
I'm just throwing that out on the table, folks.
I gotta be honest with you,
I want the ambulance to show up when I need it.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying, should we involve?
Just like we talked about calling 911 and someone
Yeah.
answers, we kind of want something to
What
happen.
I'm saying is, should we involve the townships to help with the cost?
I don't know, first of all, I'm not sure the township governments generate the kind of money that would be necessary to do that.
And they already paid property taxes.
Okay? Okay?
But, yeah. Okay, do we have a motion on this one already? I've lost track in all the excitement. I think we do. So, any other discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I think you're done. You're really, really done this time.
Hey, I got a question about this. Scott, if we
Sorry,
move all
Jeff,
this money, if we move the proceeds to the foundation, how are we gonna pay this next year?
We talked about that at our.
Right, are we gonna hold it back?
Yeah, we would have, so that's one of the things, the proposed ordinance is holding back $10 million, I think, and that would continue to pay this.
Okay.
Is that, was your intention when you were talking about holding back 10 million for ambulance contract too?
When we talked about that in our meeting, the 10 million was general. What we identified one thing in that meeting, and the rest was just a blanket to get us through to the end of 2016. So I did not have anything earmarked for that. I didn't have anything in mind for that. It was just.
And we haven't approved that ordinance yet, so the number could change if it needs to.
Well, I guess it's something we definitely have to now focus on a little more. If it's $1 million a year to provide this service throughout the county, then.
You haven't approved that, you haven't approved that ordinance yet for the foundation?
It's on the October 6th agenda.
And then it'll be on ours later in that same month, I assume. Yeah, I mean, as we double back into the foundation meeting, these will be discussions that we'll have to
It's
certainly.
currently being paid out of hospital principal right now.
Right.
So hopefully we can move it off of that, but.
We'll hold back enough so it covers.
Couple years.
Yeah, I think the sooner
3
we
years.
get the money invested,
The
we
better.
can start making interest.
Absolutely.
Is really what we need to focus
Amen.
on.
Exactly.
That's where my focus is.
That's
So,
right. That's right. So we got to drive that wagon. All right, thanks, commissioners. Have a good evening. Memorial Line Process, like I said, we'll grab that at a different meeting. Tourism. You guys want to take a break before we get into this one? Let's take a quick break, 5 minutes.
Get an extra agenda.
There's one right here.
How you doing?
Or anything I could make copies of.
Sorry, I need some water. So I don't know. Somebody should text us.
Yeah, this is it. You had it all day or just this crap?
Outside, I can feel it.
Go to the doctor.
They went over how I'm morning. At 8 o'clock.
Driving?
No, at 8 o'clock.
Okay. For what? It's young baby.
Are you quoting Shakespeare, Mitch? Oh.
Yeah. Well, some of them. Two of them are just little training and coaching.
Yes.
Especially slow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me wait for Jeremy. Is Jeremy still here? No. Ran. We'll wait a few minutes.
Really? That bill's around? Go ahead.
I got a whole bunch of people coming in. First of all, they don't care.
As soon as our prodigal councilman comes back, we'll get back to it. Joy, would you be so kind as to go find him? Thank you. Fine, go find Jeremy.
Well, she has to do it. So, she's directed by the board. Here he comes.
All right. Care to join us, Councilman Rivas?
I am present. Now.
This should be a quick one. Not really.
What is this?
All right, so you've got the tourism budget in front of you, 7304. As you know, this is not a general fund generated budget. However, it's a budget that has raised some concern and questions. So let's go.
Okay, do you want me to go through the increases and
Yep.
decreases first?
Yeah, do that.
Under employee benefits, line 1241, longevity is being increased from 2,700 to 3,000 for a total of $300.
Okay.
On office supplies, we've decreased $2,000 from 10,000 to 8,000.
Okay.
On gas and fuel, we've decreased from 6,400 to 5,000 based upon lower prices. Building maintenance, we're down $500 from 10,000 to 9,500. Although, what's that? Is that total estimate? Oh, yeah. Training and education is up 5,000 from 10,000 to 5,000. Telephone is down 3,000 from 20,000 to 17,000. Water and sewage is up 2,000 from 5,000 to 7,000. That's based on an increase from the town quarter, was it?
What's your contractual? Let's just cut to the chase. What kind of things do you spend your contractual on? That's a big ticket item, $125,000. Where's that go?
So we have our security, and most of our research line item comes out of that. We also have ADP, which is our payroll. So mainly a lot of our research is coming out of that, and then also some of our creative design for our marketing.
All right, so a couple questions I've got. So your matching grant, $50,000. Explain that.
I will in just a moment. Before we get to that, I want
No, why don't you explain it now?
Okay.
I'm
We
curious.
have a grant program is this last year's, 2014? Over the last, from 2011 to 2014, we budget $50,000 for grants. In 2011, we awarded $52,500. We actually spent $43,530. In 2012, we awarded out of the $49,000. They actually took $42,324. In 2013, we awarded $56,000. Out of that, they took $44,000. 2014, we awarded $39,300. They took $36,856. Now, here's last year, I think, who we award to.
Okay.
AR Tour, which is an association of artists and craftsmen of Portage County, $400. Portage Township Summerfest.
Do you have a list there, Mitch? Is that what it is? Is it a long one? Let's get a copy. Joy, would you make us a copy for everybody, please? All right. We'll come back to that in a second as soon as she gets the copy.
Is that just what you've given out this year?
We got
Okay.
4 years.
All right, so we'll get that, but go back, I'm sorry, Mitch, go back to what you were doing before, then we'll
I just
revisit
wanted
this.
to point out, I don't have to go through them all, I don't really care to. We had previously come in a month ago or so and switched those two salaries, so I wanted to remind you for budget purposes that we wanted to switch the niche market director's salary and the public relations director's salary. We've done that a month ago. That's on the last page under their salaries, because we had submitted this budget before we made that change.
So it looks like,
So niche market director would go to $42,250,
Yes.
and the public relations director would go to $44,260. That was a change you previously approved at the end of this year, and I just want to make sure that in next year's budget that's changed.
so all right, other than those switches, have you interpolated into your proposed budget some raises?
No.
It looks like current year, some of those salaries are different than Or maybe not, maybe,
That's 2015 approved.
right,
Are we changing
Oh.
it? No.
okay, all right,
We're not changing any salaries.
gotcha. Well, I just looked at current year and approved, and they both look different, which could mean all kinds of things, but
We're not increasing.
not increasing any salaries, okay. Okay, so I think we might already have a copy of your, I think you might have given this to us, Lorelei, is this correct? Is that what this is?
I think we all have this, yeah.
Is this what she's making a
That's,
copy of?
It's what I got today, and I duplicated it for him.
So,
That's not the most current information.
Well, it isn't?
It's the 11, 12, and 13.
we want, yeah, we would kind of want
So Joy will be giving you
14,
14.
15. So that's what we're getting from Joy.
14, 15.
Is that what this is?
Yeah, no, well, maybe.
I don't know. This-
Well, let's see what she brings us back, I can hardly
I think
wait.
it is.
I mean, I guess if this is what, is this where we're changing the conversation to a little bit?
Yeah,
I mean, and I know, you know, in Portage Township, they had a summer fest for a couple of years and they received a grant. I understand that. You know, it appears that there's some grants going around that are definitely going into Porter County, but right off the top, I see a Hammond track and
yeah,
a
but
Hammond track Club of Northwest
something.
Indiana. Does this money go outside of Porter County at all?
So the organization may be from outside, but they actually have to host the event within Porter County. So they have to be bringing in the room nights, the visitors. So the event was held in Porter County.
How about the Munster one, the
Family
foundation?
Cancer Awareness.
Yeah, so that is a not-for-profit, but again, the event was actually held, so all the visitation would have come to our county, the hotels, everything else. So we've never had a criteria that you actually have to be within Porter County. The event itself.
So what was the event that Munster had?
It was a family event out at the Dunes, and again, it was raising, not-for-profit to raise money for research in cancer. So the event itself was at the Dunes, part of hiking and kayaking and so forth,
Again, in Porter County.
within Porter County.
So you said you've never had a criteria established, I mean, you don't have a hard line written criteria where the event has to be in Porter County, or you
Yes,
do?
no.
That has to be, but not necessarily the person hosting or putting on the event.
You got it already.
Yeah, no, it has to be within Porter County.
All right.
How about the production film that Viva Luden?
There's been a few documentaries that have been filmed in Porter County. One to tell the story of the Kinnegad River,
Right.
and also to tell the story of Ben Jensen, who is an architect, landscape architect, who did work in the dunes. So, we have helped support. Some of these are mainly our PBS documentaries, and so we have given money to help tell those stories, those historical stories, mainly the Kinnegad River and association with the dunes.
It's a little roughly, you're giving out about 50,000 a year or something in there.
Well, that's what we budget, but roughly it looks like it's
Matching
averaging
grants, yeah.
about 42.
So what happens is, at the end of this year, we will be awarding grants for next year. We will keep money aside because we will get events that come up during the year, and we've gotten caught where there's a great event and we didn't have the monies. But what happens in history is that people will request like the maximum, and then they actually don't spend it. So they actually have to put the event on, incur the expenses, and it's a reimbursable grant program. So then they submit their receipts, and that's why you're seeing the difference between what was awarded and what was actually spent.
Let me, and I see, maybe give me a historical perspective on the Expo, the Parks, Memorial Opera House Museum. This number, the 89.1, is that something that's gone down over years or gone up over years? And, you know, as you're giving out $50,000 in matching grants, and we have these public facilities that most of them are struggling to, you know, bring in revenue,
Right, our venues.
is there a way that we can say, we'll give you a grant, but have one of our facilities over there?
How much are you giving to each one?
It's a 60-40 split, so 40 goes to the parks, and then the other split is between the three venues, and that was an established criteria between the commissioners and the council. We have never had the criteria as far as where the events are held. We do have quite a few events that are held at Sunset Hill Farm is one of the popular locations, but we've never actually had that, Jeremy, as a requirement, you know, as to where they actually hold the event. And we definitely have some that are at that percent as well. But quite a few of them are, because when you're talking about an inside event, you know, that's one of the few locations that can house those larger events.
Yeah, Bob.
When this all started years ago, you had 4 main venues, didn't you? Opera House, Expo, Parks, and the museum.
Museum.
Village Hall.
Right. How has that changed into, why have we gotten off the 4 main venues to this list of the winter snow shore?
We have-
Snow shore.
We've always had the 2 different funds, so we had the one that was more the community based, which is the 50,000. So we've always had that one, and then we had the separate one for the county venues.
The county venues are still funded through our budget.
That would come to the park.
How
Have
much-
they
How
grown?
much is that?
Yeah.
Parks
89,000.
Foundation.
That's 89.
Split 4 ways?
Is really. is-
Well, yeah, 60% to the parks and then remainder split, or I got that backwards. 40% to the parks and then 60% split 3 ways amongst the remaining 3 venues apparently.
Is this a complete list
It is.
that you provided? I didn't see anything on here for the Memorial Opera House.
That would
Different
be
fund.
separate. They don't have to go on.
Can you pull up that line, can you pull up this budget
No.
and see what is happening, Vicki?
It's 3993, Expo Parks, MOH Museum, 89,100.
Can you pull up and see how that, I mean, do you have that?
We don't have their budget in our accounting
Okay,
system,
that's my question.
but we can call up the
I
spreadsheet.
think it's,
We have that.
I don't know for sure what
Yeah,
that,
that doesn't make sense.
Okay, the 89,100, 40% of that goes to the parks.
Right.
And these were all percentages you guys established. 40% goes to parks, the other 60% of that number is divided equally between the Expo Center, the Memorial Opera House, and the Old Jail Museum.
And see, this budget is generated non-general fund, it's innkeeper tax.
Correct.
And how much was generated, like in 14? How much total was generated in 14?
Can't give you that much.
I'm asking her.
So in the innkeeper's tax in 2014, we collected 1.298555, so 1,298,555,060 cents.
All right, and that was for 214?
That's 2014.
And so, of course, the lion's share of that was generated off, was spent on your budget and operations. Where'd the rest go? What happens to the rest?
Well, we're actually under what we're budgeted.
Right.
So the rest will roll over to the next year.
If we don't generate the tax, we don't spend the money.
Well, I understand that. I'm just wondering what happens if you over-generate the tax. Where does it go? You carry it over.
That's ever happened.
Well, I think she just said it did.
yeah, she did.
Well, I said we are under the tax. We also get $50,000 from the National Park and Visitor Center, but it just rolls over and stays in
It's
our budget.
the tourism's non-reverting fund.
Right.
What is, do you have a balance of that, the
We do.
non-reverting?
I don't have the cash flow with me, but we do have a balance. We have the the rainy day funds that we have to protect the money. We also have a capital improvements fund. So we put X amount of dollars in per month for, we have a.
Do you have a guess, Lorelei, as to what's in those funds?
If you have it, 640,000, so.
How much, I'm sorry?
640,000. So it's the capital improvement funds and then the rainy day fund. So for example, there was one year when it was almost 3 months where we didn't get our tax. So that
Gotcha.
has to help us, offset,
Right.
be able to make it, in case anything catastrophe happens in terms of travel or something.
What, in marketing, $235,000? Is that where like Beyond the Dunes and all that stuff, is that the marketing of Porter County?
Is that what this is?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I provided you. This February, we had a state of the Porter County Tourism to really show you what we do on a day-to-day basis. So when you're looking at the marketing, you're looking at the totality of it. So we have a comprehensive website that we produce. We have all the publications, which are the Activities Guide to Beyond Beach Discovery Trail. We also have product development in terms of the Beyond Beach Discovery Trail as well. We have, and then our digital advertising. So at the end of the day, by the state law, we are given the job of promoting the destination, marketing and promoting the destination. We're a destination marketing organization, so first and foremost, that's what we're supposed to be doing, bringing in visitors, importing new cash, and extending their stay. So what you're seeing is that's the money we use to do, the lion's share of what we do.
Do you use any of that money to market the expo, the parks, the Memorial Opera House, or the museum? Do we do anything beyond the
They're all up on our website.
89?
Absolutely, and we work close in hand with them, and we actually market hundreds of businesses. One of the things you have to understand, we are not a pay-to-play bureau, and what that means is there are a lot of bureaus that you don't get marketing unless you pay to be in their publications. We take the stance of what does the visitors need to know about our destination. So we're supporting hundreds of businesses at no cost to them. You know, and if you look at our destination, we're a lot of small mom and pop independent owned businesses that really benefit greatly, and it would be great for you to be able to hear from them in terms of some of the successes that they've had in terms of what, you know, businesses that we've brought to their doors.
How do you advertise that?
So the most important thing that we're doing, the first is awareness of the destination. So I'm going up against Michigan, we're going up against Wisconsin.
Oh, just a second. They can't hear in the back. Can you put that other microphone back here? Took your microphone.
Yeah.
That's because he's making a horrible noise.
Well, we'll take yours then if that.
Put it in the middle? No. No, I don't think so.
All right, but she'll put it back.
I don't think you can move that.
So the first thing we do is we are going up against, we have the Chicago market and the Indianapolis market as our two big market shares. So we're competing against the Michigans, the Wisconsins. So first we get out there just to motivate people to know that our destination exists, and certainly we're using the big guns, which is the Indiana Dunes. And then what our job is to motivate people to go to our website, to contact our office, and start to get our guides. So our website being comprehensive, our guides being comprehensive is the next stage, is where they get that information and then they start to plan their trip to come here. And our goal is not only to get the visitors here, but to extend their stay and get them into our communities. Our conversion rate, meaning when a person contacts us for information, 66% of those people are actually converting into an actual visitor within Porter County. So the document that I handed you really gives you an overview of our digital marketing campaign, our social media campaign. We have over $2 million that we've generated in outside free media in terms of the public relations and getting stories printed about our destination. Again,
Can I ask, not to interrupt you, can I ask
Sure.
a quick question before I forget? I know that often over in Lake County, their tourism director, whose name I won't mention because it always makes me throw up in my mouth, has indicated that they're doing a lot of work in Porter County because we're not doing it. Do you think that's a true statement?
I do not think that's a true statement. I think there's other reasons why he's doing that. I think if you look at the work we're doing for 5 staff members, and I think this is really important to note, we are an accredited bureau. That means our international association, we have to meet 88 standards. 58 of those are mandatory, 30 of those are not mandatory. So they look at they look at us critically in terms of making sure we're meeting those benchmarks. We were given exemplary status for our strategic plan. I was asked to actually present on that, and then we also got exemplary status on our green
What are
cards.
they doing in our county? No, I'm asking you, what are they doing in our county?
They're
Not
selling-
what are they doing in our county? No, we don't have a wall, but what are they doing in our county?
What are they doing for?
What kind of
county?
things are they doing in our county? I know we can't keep them out.
With the other bureau, I'm not.
Yeah, what is the Lake County Tourism Bureau doing?
over here?
I think at the end of the day, he's selling.
And then I want to change, like, what's Spiro's doing over here?
That's odd. I mean, he's doing it now, the same thing he's done for the last few years. He's selling a regional tourism bureau.
Okay, I get that. Back to my question. What are they doing in our county? What kind of things are they doing in our county?
For our county.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is sell memberships to some of our businesses. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's what I'm hearing. I really don't know, Dan. I really try to stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish. And
Yeah, but you have to, Lorelei, you have to be cognizant of what your neighbor, who has said for years that he wants to take over your tourism board, you have to be aware of what he's doing in your county.
Sell membership.
Is this,
sorry. What,
yeah, go ahead.
membership?
basically be a member of his bureau. So there are some bureaus that actually sell membership, and then if you buy into their membership, you get some advertising that goes along with it. But as far as the actual details of what they're getting, I really don't know.
Is there still a legislative battle going on down there with him?
You know, it's been pretty quiet on that front for a couple of years, but you know.
This ought to amp it up.
I'm sorry?
This ought to amp it up.
I don't know.
So, yeah, I would say. Okay. So beyond trying to sell memberships, you don't know the success rate that they're having selling memberships to their tourism bureau in our county. So we don't know the answer to that. That troubles me a bit.
Well, we really try to stay focused on.
I understand that, but the fact of the matter, I get that.
I don't understand your question.
Well, my question is, no, it's a very clear question, actually, Jim. We have a neighbor to the west who has made it very clear that their intention is to take over our tourism board, to make it regional, and they would run it. And they've also, their director has also made comments that they are doing things in our county for their tourism, that are enhancing their tourism bureau, because we're not doing them. My question is, A, what is our competition? Because it is our competition when they're coming to our county and doing those things. What are they doing specifically, and how successful are they? And then my next question would be, why aren't we? So that's my question. Let me finish. So, and I would think that since this isn't a new development, we would want to know what they're doing. And furthermore, I would say that this room is packed full of people who were staunchly against the project on the beach, and I believe that the director of the tourism from Lake County came and spoke in favor of it, so they might also be curious to know what is the Lake County Tourism Bureau doing, what kind of activities are they conducting in our county? That's my question. But go ahead.
The last time I remember Spiros, besides at the meeting a couple of weeks ago, was at the steps of City Hall in Valparaiso with some kind of softball. He's praising that he's bringing softball to Lake County, and I don't know if there was games over here, or if he was bragging that he was filling hotels over here. I'm not sure that's the last. I mean, I think that goes off of what you're saying. He's coming over here saying, look what I'm doing in Porter County, and I don't know what he was doing. Was there games over here? Was he filling hotels over here? I don't know if that's kind of where Dan's going with that whole thing, but he stood on these steps over here at City Hall and bragged.
So that was the National Softball Association. Some games in the past have been held here. It was a 3-county event. We were originally years ago part of getting that business here. So yes, some of the issues that we have on the sporting side, which we've been very upfront with, is that we're lacking facilities, and hence the reason we did the CSL study with the commissioners to try to look at our facilities. And we really can't get aggressively into that market unless we improve and get new facilities for the sporting side of it. That was the end game with that particular study. There's some really cool things that came out of the study that said if we really want to get into sports, there are 3 initiatives that they really focused on, which was a natatorium, and a softball and baseball fields, and then also to get grants to improve the local facilities as well.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can say this, Dan.
Yes.
We're really focused on measuring our effectiveness, and so we're doing conversion studies. We do our economic impact studies, and so what we're looking at is making sure that we're doing the job that we're supposed to be doing in Porter County, and making sure we're doing it well. So the document that you have was, giving you an overview of those measurements and showing you what we've accomplished in 2014. We will do the same thing in 2015. So we've been more focused on what our job is and trying. And one of the other big differences, just so you know, even though we share a county line, there's a big difference in terms of the product experience. We're a very strong leisure market. That means 80% of the people that are coming to our destination are that leisure traveler, and that's due to the dunes. I mean, you have the #1 attraction in the state that is sitting in our county, and they're attracting 3 million visitors a year. 60% of those are visitors from outside the state of Indiana. 20% are from Northwest Indiana. So that means 80% are from outside of this area. And so because of that, that's a big driver for the leisure market. And that's a different market than what Spiro is going after. So I think those are some of the distinct differences. And because of that, you're seeing our marketing is much different.
Look, I'm not trying to insinuate or charge you with the obligation of knowing everything that Spiros or anybody else in that tourism bureau are doing, and I'm not even suggesting that you should gauge your conduct and activities and your goals based upon their activity. I just was curious, since I've had to hear ad nauseum from the blustering hot air over there about all the wonderful things they're doing in our county, because we're not. I just wanted to get your input and thoughts as to how successful they were being in doing that.
Absolutely. And I would just say that I think if you look at what we're doing, I would applaud that we know what we're doing in terms of our market and really making sure. And I think the other thing is that people need to realize everything that we're doing on the visitor side, we try to get the residents to take advantage of it as well. And one of the comments that we get quite a bit, especially with the Beyond the Beach Discovery Trail materials, is that people are shocked when they find out what's in their own county, because you'd be amazed that a lot of people don't realize what we have in their own county. So we want the residents to take advantage of the materials that we have in the visitor center and that we're giving to visitors as well.
What sort of projects do you have planned for 2016 that are new?
The new projects, the biggest thing that we're excited about is that we launched our full digital campaign last year. We're seeing results of that. The Indiana Dunes State Park has had a record year last year for gate fees. They're having a record year this year over last year, and we really do believe the digital campaign has made a huge difference. We believe the 3 Dune Challenge has made a huge difference. Dan, the thing that we're really focused on is we've got some pretty large projects we're trying to move forward. That's the Dunes Kankakee Trail.
Right.
We're trying to, if you guys know the Beyond the Beach Discovery Trail, that's a nature-based site throughout Porter County, and we've expanded it to 7 counties. We need to improve some of those sites and the amenities. So we have some larger projects. We have a gentleman that is going to be donating South Shore memorabilia worth millions of dollars. He will give that to us if we can turn that into an immovable attraction. So there's a lot of heavy lifting that we have to do. We want to redesign the visitor center to make it much more experiential to the visitor. That's a big project that's on our plate. So, in terms of new projects, we've already got so much on our plate that we want to continue to move forward, and it's a huge benefit to the quality of life in Porter County.
Has there been any discussion about beautification, environmental restoration, making the immediate area coming out of the dunes as far down as Route 6 to beautify it, to clean it up?
The town of Porter received a grant from RDA to at least extend that dunes experience at least to the 94, and I'm not exactly sure where that process is. We've been in discussions with them, and the Dunes Kankakee Trail comes right up to the visitor center. There has been minor discussions, but the biggest one started with when Porter got that grant. And so I know there's been some things that have changed in that direction, but I think that's the start of it, if they can get that revived and continue on with that, the original vision.
Okay. Scott, I guess my question would be, what can we do with this budget? What can we do to it? And if we can't increase it, we probably can cut it.
Right.
Because they have a board, can we redirect their line items? Could we, for example, take money out of their matching grant and put it other places, that sort of thing? Do we have that authority or no?
Yeah.
They can transfer.
There's some authority on the budget, that's why they're here.
Well, what happens if we cut that budget? Where's that revenue go?
Stays where it is.
So just pile, give them a surplus. I mean,
Well, they've already said they've got $640,000 in non-reverting and rainy days.
But again, we could move things around if we felt the need to do so, however.
So that would be impacting these businesses and events that meet our mission.
Right.
And our mission, I thought she would give me a copy, but Indiana Dunes Tourism is the official agency for destination marketing, planning, and development, and a key economic driver of sustainable visitor growth. We believe that everything we've done is within our mission. And we believe that these grants are important to our communities, not just, it's all encompassing. These, and you've got them all right before you.
Right.
These are not-for-profits for the most part, who are hosting events and requesting funds that they need in order to put these things on. Tall Tree Art.
The Lightning Bug Music Festival, for example?
Yeah, that was at the county park. That was huge. It was a big draw. And it's been good every year.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was somewhat surprised when I saw the list, because I was given the impression that there was things on there, and when I read it, I'll be very honest with everybody in the room. I saw nothing on this list that didn't belong on this list. I didn't see any payments to lobbyists or anything like that. I think the money, from what I see on this list, the money was spent absolutely appropriately. And if it weren't, I'd be the first one up here to tell you that it had not been. And but it certainly appears that it has been. And let's just, I'll quickly address the 900-pound gorilla in the room.
Well, before you do that,
Yeah.
before you get down there, Lorelei and Mitch,
Keep kicking the tires.
yeah, you guys have to know that this board has been inundated with hate mail because of the recent developments up on the beach. Now, most of that is stuff that is outside of our authority, with the exception of we appoint you to the Tourism Board and we appoint Rudy Sutton to the Alcohol Beverage Commission. Beyond that, we look at your budget, and as Councilman Biggs has so eloquently put it, doesn't seem to be anything on here that's untoward. But we'd be remiss in not asking you, I suppose, to give us some, thought as to what and why is going on with the.
I'd gladly do that.
Please.
First of all, just so the council knows, at any time that this council feels that I have not done my job, then I will gladly resign, first of all. So I feel that I've done my job. And I know that it's been said that I'm rude. I take issue with that. Sylvia, you were at the Memorial Opera House that night, and I don't know if any of the others on the council were there, but I thought that that was handled well. I did not think that I was rude. In fact, the whole thing at times seemed like it was controlled chaos to me.
Actually, quite truthfully, I think that the audience we have a very heated subject matter that we're dealing with. And I truthfully think that the people that attended that night handled themselves very well. You were feeling a lot of pressure because of the circumstances. Okay? Now, I truthfully,
I was rude?
I don't know if you were.
No, stop. Back to my question.
Okay. So, I didn't even know about the pavilion project really, other than on the periphery, until April of this year. And it ended up on our agenda.
Right.
So in April of this year, when it ended up on our agenda, and maybe 6 to 8 people showed up, and we were expecting a lot more. We had moved the meeting into the theater area, anticipating a huge crowd, because the night before there had been something at Chesterton Middle School, which was fairly well attended, and I had been at the open house previously that was fairly well attended. It came to my attention prior to the April meeting that at the Chesterton Middle School, the DNR, who was the one responding to questions from the crowd, was unable to really provide any significant information or answers. And I felt at that time that rather than us trying to do the same thing in April, that it might be better to host a forum, if you will, or a public meeting, not necessarily an official public meeting, but a forum for the pavilion partners to answer the questions that the opponents had.
Were you, let me ask, was it your charge on the tourism board to approve this project?
I believe it was, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. So I hosted this.
Why do you think it was?
Because I believe personally, and I believe the majority of the board believes, that this project has significant impact on the tourism in Porter County, and a positive impact.
Okay. Go on.
And I've looked at their numbers. So in April, I decided to host this forum to provide communication both ways. And in fact, some of you called me about that because it ended up our little theater, which would not have been big enough, I might add, was booked by NERC or some other governmental entity. So I was thinking of hosting it in here. And I thought this wasn't very big. So I moved it to the Memorial Opera House. And then I got a call about that, and I was asked to change the time. So I contacted the Memorial Opera House, and I moved the time back so that more people would have the opportunity to attend. Now, I was somewhat limited in how far back I could move it.
Why do you, okay, I don't mean to stop
That's okay.
the history lesson, but I get where you're headed with that. Why do you think this project, and by the way, let me just say this. I mean, we have appointments to boards. I don't always agree with what boards do. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm not of the mindset that just because we might not agree with what a particular board does, we don't go trying to get people fired, or that we deal with them on reappointments so long as they're not doing something that we find afoul of what that board's charge or duties are. So you're starting with that. Now, we can have conversations when your reappointment comes up, but just because I might not agree with this project, I understand your thinking. But now I want you to tell me, why do you think this project would improve tourism in the county?
Because I believe that more people will have access to the beach, more people will be able to dine up there. If there are weddings held, it's going to bring economic impact into the county. It's going to put people in the hotels, which is what we're charged to do. That's why we take a tax from those people. And part of our responsibility is to bring more people in to fill those beds, to pay that tax, and to compensate, because, believe me, the hoteliers and such feel picked on having to pay an extra tax for tourism. Don't think that they don't. And that's why there's so many of them on our board by statute.
Okay, so you had some data then to base this on?
Yes, there's data. Well, for one thing, the Northwest Indiana Building and Construction Trades support the project because it brings construction jobs for the workers in our county. That's one important point to me.
Right.
Secondly, let me find it. And I don't know, data is just what you make it. It's data.
Right.
It's all projected business projections. But
Right.
the data that was provided shows what was being put in financially to the pavilion, to the bathroom project, etc. But secondly, they're projecting an annual benefit to the Department of Natural Resources of $250,000. I don't necessarily care about that one way or the other, but that's their projection. What I do care about is the economic impact to local businesses, average based upon an average stay, overnight guests, etc. Estimated guests to the banquet center in year 3. Oh, I skipped.
So I guess my question would be along those lines.
I believe that there's millions of dollars of economic
So
benefit.
by interpolating a new pavilion and alcohol into the beach area, your data tells you that that's going to increase stays in our local hotels.
Yes.
So your data contemplates that if that pavilion weren't there, that wedding reception wouldn't occur somewhere else in the county?
Right. Correct. There is no.
Well,
How about all the venues that we have?
There aren't that many.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim. We're going to do one at a time, so go ahead, Jim.
Mitch, we've
And then we'll
heard
get to
that
Sylvia. Hold on.
that there's been data collected in regard to the economic impact. And we've heard earlier about the gate receipts at the dunes have increased here over the last few years. Has there been any studies done, any data gathered in what negative effect this could possibly have on the beach? Because we already know we have, y'all said it, we have arguably the most valuable piece of property in the state of Indiana in the way of tourism on that property. So I would think that we have to be looking at it, or we can't afford to be looking at it in a singular, fashion. We have to look at what's already there, the value of that, and what risk we're putting to that piece of property by putting something there that is not there now.
What's occurring there is undisturbed property already. I mean, some of these.
Hold on.
But Mitch, what I'm asking is, did the Tourism Bureau, was you provided any information about the environmental impact or whatever that could have on it?
Actually,
Well, hold on a minute. Before you answer that question, Sylvia, I want you to ask your question, and then we're going to...
Well, I would I have a lot of questions, but I'd like Jim to continue on that. Is there an environmental study that's been done?
It's my understanding they're doing that right now. So that's a process that is actually between Pavilion Partners and.
Well, isn't that, Laura, with all due respect, isn't that a little late? Isn't that getting the cart before the horse? I mean, isn't that something that the state DNR should have done before? I'm not saying it's your obligation.
In order to build it, they have to do the impact study.
Well, why are you letting out an RFP to build it, going after a liquor license to serve liquor there, and then doing the environmental study after the fact? That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not cost effective for a restaurant. We did determine this. It's not cost effective for a restaurant to be anywhere without the ability to add alcohol.
Hold on a minute. Sorry.
We didn't hear that.
Yeah, cell phones. Go ahead, say it again.
It's not economically feasible for any restaurant anywhere to open without the ability to sell alcohol.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
I'd like to-
Sylvia had more questions.
Yes. You said it yourself, Mitch. You didn't find out about this entire project until April. I was at that gathering that you had at April at the Tourism Board, where you said not many people showed up.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought you did.
I said there were a lot of questions that could not be answered.
Okay.
It was packed.
Yeah, right. That's because it did.
Sylvia, what he was referring to is, was our board meeting
Oh,
that
okay.
happened the day after the Chesterton Middle School event with DNR. That's the event that.
Okay. Well, the thing of it is I would like, we've always had a good rapport with tourism and this board, always, and I've always supported it. I would like very much in the future, no matter who's sitting on this council, that things are brought out and in the open, and I think that we need to have a good interaction with knowing what's going on. We all have things, we know what happened. It's obvious. We know what happened, and it's happened. What I would like to, and Karen also mentioned it here, we were wondering if somehow, why does Parks get the higher percentage of the cut?
Because they have the higher expenses, I believe.
Attendance too.
It was just something that was
Is it?
negotiated between the commissioners and the council.
It's almost obsolete now. If we do anything within this budget, we could even take a little bit off of consulting or something.
Absolutely.
And up what we give to our venues and have it be a split of all the four venues.
Well, that might drastically impact Parks' budget, because I believe that they count.
I think attendance with the park probably was a driving force.
Your contractual you're doing a lot with the Parks with contractual? Your
I don't
contractual
understand what
budget?
the end goal here is. I don't understand why we're pulling from anywhere in this budget, anything out of it. As it's already been pointed out, if we do, it just goes into a reserve fund, which they can spend anyway. I mean, I don't believe we should be making decisions up here for appearance sake only.
It's not for appearance sake, our venues are struggling.
True.
Well, that's why I asked. Yeah, I definitely brought that up. Another.
Guys, we could give 10,000 more to the venues.
We're just gonna have to, you just would increase our budget to 10,000, so, if you'd wanna do that. But then you'd have to determine if you wanna stick with the same 60-40 or,
Well-
that was an agreement because 3 of the venues fall under the commissioners, so that was an agreement between the council and the commissioners because 3 venues are falling under them, and then of course the.
Have they come to you and asked for more money?
They have not.
Small. But your 3 smaller venues are the ones that are struggling the most.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Emma Waller, Emma
I mean,
Willis,
here's the thing, if our, all right, let me just say this.
museum.
There's not, I mean, if we start reducing this budget and doing crazy things, that's not going to serve any particular end. And if we start taking away from their grant money, that's going to impact the people that are receiving the grant. And even though you may or may not be for or against this Pavilion Partners fiasco, we can't punish the recipients of the grants. I, of course, am a huge proponent of the Memorial Opera House, museum, those kinds of things. I would like to see more money interpolated into those venues anyway. It wouldn't be a punishment thing for me. It would be trying to get some more money into those local, venues. So that's.
I'm a big supporter of them as well, and I wouldn't mind seeing our budget increase if it's possible. Increase
Now,
about 10,000 in that line item.
Okay.
Because I feel that, and I've always felt that we should do as much as we can with the venues. We try to include them in our website, and then the county went off on their direction. We just had a study done on what we could do with the Expo Center to redevelop it, et cetera. I mean, that has been a big push of mine.
Well, that was what my question was going to be, Dan, is you mentioned the study, you both have mentioned the study now that has been done over the last couple of years. I don't believe that either of those presentations or studies were presented to this council. Maybe I'm wrong, but one was about the whole youth sports and in this area of Porter County. The other one was about that Expo Center. I think that was the older one, and the plans were to do what? Was that?
That was to redevelop it. I mean, you're at a critical juncture with the Expo Center in terms of the condition it's in. So what is the future of the Expo Center, and that's what it looked at. And so it looked at what are the possibilities. And the good news is that there were some really good positives that came out on the Expo Center. First of all, whoever did the initial layout in terms of how it's laid out and structured was very positive. They do not feel it needs to be expanded in terms of space, but you have some really tired buildings, and that they're at a very big competitive disadvantage in terms of recruiting conventions and seminars with the condition of the building. So it asked to add another building to the current Expo Center, renovate the current Expo Center, and then there were some things that they felt needed to be done on the fairgrounds to enhance some of the 4-H events that take place there, like cover the grandstand. So if you do have a concert, those folks would be covered. Some things with the horses. I mean, if you look at the horse stalls out there, they're in really bad condition. So it really showcased what you could do in terms of the Expo Center. The Expo Centers, though, Jeremy, is one of those situations where you can invest more money. You're not going to exactly get that back. You're going to probably run in the red on that one. On the sports side of it, there is a model out there where it actually can. It's going to need potentially money to build the facilities, but then it could operate. There is a group that we're working with that could operate on its own and not need additional funding down the road. The natatorium, the suggestion there was to team up with Valparaiso University. So again, they would have they would do the operational cost, but does the county come in and build the facility? So there was some really solid suggestions on both fronts.
That is my question. We spent this money on these two studies, and what is the next phase? Is it for us to spend money? Are you coming to us for millions of dollars? Is it private? Was it done for now to attract a private?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, these are millions of dollars worth of projects, and what does people want to do with that, and where's that money going to come from? So that's the big question, is where does the funding come to put the infrastructure in? This is infrastructure. You're talking new infrastructure for the sports side of it, and then you're talking quite a bit of money to rehab the Expo Center.
Well, and I've heard, I mean, over the years that I've been on this council, I've heard various different proposals for sports facilities. I mean, I've heard 4 or 5 different locations now. I've lost count. And every one of them, there's some, or most of them, there's some private group partnering with government. I'm not in favor of that. I've been fairly consistent. I'm not for private government partnerships. I'm not for privatizing. That's not my thing. Every time that happens, the public is taken out of the process. That's I think it runs afoul of what we ought to be doing. And it just seems like every time that happens, and I look at some of these private government partnerships that have happened around the country, they never sort of blossom to what was proposed to be the net result. And it's not the private side that usually takes it in the chin, it's usually the government side. So fundamentally, I've always looked at those with a jeweler's eye, and none of them have passed muster with me. So, I don't know if that,
And I'd be happy to, give a presentation on the two studies. I'd be happy to come in and give you a more specifics in terms of economic return and so forth, in terms of what we could gain from that.
Well, like I said, I looked through the budget and I didn't see anything that I figured that if there was more money to go to any of those venues, that you had already had that conversation with those department heads, and the decision would have been made. But anyway.
museum's running good, Memorial Opera House is hurting, Expo could use some bread. There.
Can I ask that question? What is the breakdown of the 89.1 to the 4 venues? Actual dollars.
40% goes
To the park? 40 to the park, and then 20,
to the parks, and
20, 20, 20?
divided equally between the three. And that was a formula arrived at by the council and the commissioners.
Can we change that formula now, Scott?
With an agreement with the commissioners.
Yeah, because it's done through ordinance.
Yeah, so.
That's done through ordinance?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is?
Then
Can we suggest it?
Why don't we take that number to 100,000?
Yeah, 100,000's even, if you add.
And leave the division the way it is.
Okay? I'm actually really good with that.
Whether it is or isn't, I think that a discussion with the Board of Commissioners and coming back to this body, that you feel in your infinite wisdom that it needs to be changed. I don't think they would have a problem with it. I don't know why. Why would they?
Well, they got the money sitting there.
Right.
So why only a 10,000?
I just thought 100,000 was a nice round number, that's all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with the breakdown, but that's outside our wheelhouse.
Well, what her concern is that, the innkeeper's tax, fluctuates, and so we're not exactly sure we're gonna be able to.
Well, then I'll make a motion to lower contractual by the dollar amount needed to get the venues up to 100,000. Take the 125 down to whatever we need to get to the $11,000.
Aren't you having you've got money in rainy day funds, you've got money in.
We do. I mean, we've put a lot of work into getting that
Yeah.
to that level, because we've been told, through our accreditation, they give you kind of a measurement of where you should be. So we put a lot of work into getting to where we think those funds need to be. I would ask that you keep.
Who is they?
I was just saying, through the accreditation process, we go through the benchmarking in terms of budgets. It's just.
I thought we were the ones that sort of approved your budget.
You approve it. You do
Thank
approve
you.
it.
I get what you're saying. Okay. So, where are you going to head? What's your thoughts?
So perhaps out of marketing, would that be fair to say?
I would ask if we could just keep the budget the same, and if we can increase the 10,000 and we can make that happen, that would be my recommendation. I mean, we get a couple of years ago we were being attacked for giving the venue money, and you remember, I don't know if you guys remember that, and so.
We didn't attack.
Yeah, no.
Wasn't from us.
There's some outside folks saying we need to put more into the marketing side.
Well, let me ask that. What was the concern with that? What entities were attacking you for giving money to our local?
Some of the hoteliers wanting to see more in the community, wanted to see it put into the communities, and then.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, you got to see their side of it as well. I'm sure. That's what I'm saying. 6 of one, half does the other. You're darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't. So I mean, that's why I'm not going to sit up here in 5 minutes and dictate. I think that you probably put in a lot of sweat in putting this budget together, and I don't see it right where it was last year for the most part. I mean,
give me a motion, someone.
I would like to increase line item 3993 to an even 100,000. That's $10,900.
I'll second.
And the extra money, I would like to see parks would get their 40% of the 89,100, but the other 3 venues realizing a little bit more because they're struggling too.
So, are you wanting 40% out of the 100,000 here?
No. I'm saying you're giving the parks what they're counting on.
Okay.
40% of 89.1.
Okay.
And then the extra 10.9 split up.
That would require an agreement between us and the
Okay.
commissioners.
Okay.
Can we ask them to do that?
We can do that.
We can.
What do you mean you can't?
In order to make that division, you'd have to get an agreement.
Okay,
Well, sure.
then we'll leave it status quo, but bring that number up to $100,000.
Okay. A motion, a second on the floor. Discussion.
Just one thing, and I tried to touch on it earlier. I respect your decision to support the pavilion project, just as I hope you respect my opinion that I don't. But as an elected official, who one of his responsibilities is to oversee, at least in part, your operations budget. What I do not understand is why your board took the lead, and not the DNR, it's state property, and it basically carried the water through this county in support of that project, holding the meetings, calling meetings, whatever it was. Especially having a board member who is a primary principal of the pavilion project on your board. In my opinion, you should have walked away from it, got away from it as far as possible. I think that was the only right thing to do. Well, Mitch, you could smile all you want.
You're right. I'm not disagreeing.
I have a lot of respect for all of you. I think that you're all good government officials or workers. I have a lot of respect for you. But I think by doing that, you sent the wrong message and gave the wrong impression to a lot of good people out there who want nothing other than to protect that park. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just hope that in the future, there's a little bit more thought if something like this comes up again.
Well, yeah. And again, our input of that process is very limited. We have an appointment to the Tourism Board, which I was a little surprised the Tourism Board took such a charge. And we have, an appointment to the Local Alcohol Beverage Commission. Turns out our appointment there voted no twice.
Right.
And then fundamentally, if I were asked to vote, I would have voted no, because candidly, I am not a proponent of privatization because of this. You have a bunch of people coming to a meeting saying, where was our voice? That concerns me deeply. Without getting into the specifics of that lease agreement, some of it that has been trickling down to me doesn't seem all that great, but it's just me. I haven't had the time or the effort to go through that lease agreement in detail. But it just seems like, again, the public process gets lost. Somewhere along the way, we just lose that when we have these privatized partnerships. So that's a real problem with me. Generally speaking, when Spiro says yes, you can always count me as a no, too. So this is something for future reference. But that's my personal view, and that's about as valuable as anybody else's personal view in this building, because quite candidly, we don't control the DNR, we don't control the Tourism Board, we don't control the Alcohol Beverage Commission, and we surely don't control it downstate. All we control is this budget, in the sense that cutting things that would impact local venues,
Right.
and that's problematic. We can't do that.
Could I say one more thing, Dan? I'm sorry, but
Yes.
really, this is a very important budget to the county. You do bring in a lot of money in business. You're part of the grease that makes it all work. And everybody knows how I have felt in this project, and I just hope that in the future we need to build trust with each other again, have things in the open, discuss it with us. And it's hard to cut this budget because it's so necessary. And I agree with the others that have spoken. It's just a sad situation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? Let's get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Witten,
No.
He's not voting for it?
Councilmember Biggs,
I don't think so.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessup,
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperell,
Yes.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
okay. Councilmember Conover,
Yes.
and Councilmember Rivas.
No.
5-2. And the adjournment.
Okay, that's it.
Have a nice evening.
Dan?
That's it for the night.